Bob, 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 do you understand?
Yes.
You can never speak of this position to your friends, your family, not even your wife.
Can I ask what I'd be working on?
I'm afraid you cannot ask that. I'm afraid we cannot answer that.
Can I ask where I'll be working?
I'm afraid you cannot ask that. I'm afraid we cannot answer that.
How will I get there?
I'm afraid you cannot ask that. I'm afraid we cannot answer that.
Okay.
So that's it. I mean, that's how I got the greatest job in the world. I headed straight to the airport as instructed. For security reasons, I'm not allowed to say which airport it was. I didn't know what to expect. In fact, I didn't even know where to go. I knew there was a room I was supposed to attend, but I forgot what it was called. A great start, huh?
All right, everybody, you know the rules. No talking, no whispering. If you need the bathroom, you put your hand up. Now let's get on the plane.
Oh, this guy. He was very serious. I asked him how long it would take to get there. His exact words were, "I'm afraid you cannot ask that," followed by, "I'm afraid I cannot answer that." But I was just so eager to get on the plane. Not that I knew where I was going. I'm not sure what it was about that first flight. Maybe it was just a touch of nerves, but it really felt like someone was keeping an eye on me. I had no idea where I was. My first thought was to find someone who looked friendly and ask them.
I'm afraid you cannot ask it, sir. And I'm afraid I cannot answer that, sir.
He instructed me to get on the bus, even though I was the only one there. I was still told not to talk to anybody. And most of all, never try and look out of the window. I'm still unsure if that bus driver pressed the curtain button early, but seeing just the entrance was breathtaking.
You must be Bob.
That's me, I said.
I'm Anna. I'm to take you down to the office. You have to put your hand on the bone scanner.
Bone scanner. That's a new one on me. I'd learned by now not to ask questions. We finally made it to the office, where I'd get to meet my new boss.
Shit. Who the hell are you?
Well, this is awkward.
This is Bob, sir. He's starting work here today.
Oh, yeah. Well, sit down, Bob. Let's get this over with.
So he told me how the first couple of days I'd be filling out paperwork, nothing too difficult. So that's what I did. Anna would bring files in, I'd read, I'd sign, then she would bring more in. Once they were finished, there was even more. But it was what I was reading which was most startling. Metals that don't exist, technology that doesn't exist. Was this a test of my scientific ability? The next few days, that's what I did. Paperwork. I was still unsure if any of it were truthful. Maybe it was all to see how I'd react. But I went along. I'd sleep at the main base. The bus would take me back and forth every night. On day 3, I had the morning off. I was allowed to look around the facility, provided I stuck to the 3 main buildings. I say buildings like the place was small. They had a library, a movie theater, even a bowling alley. I eventually found my way into the cafeteria. After lunch, I was summoned to
Discussing
a
this work
room
with anyone
where I'd be
without
told the
clearance is severe
consequences of
consequences.
discussing
It's
the
a
work
breach of
I'd be
national
doing
security
with
every
anyone
day.
from the outside.
You will face legal and
When you hear
professional
words like
repercussions. Do not
treason
discuss
and
it.
maximum security,
You could be
it
charged
really makes you think if this
with
job is for
treason
you.
and spend 50 years in a maximum security prison.
As I headed back for my afternoon shift, I expected it to be simply more paperwork, but Anna was waiting. She told me to put on a lab coat, and she was taking me upstairs to meet my new lab partner, Barry. Now, the two things I can tell you about Barry. One, he was a phenomenal scientist. Granted, his methods could be somewhat intriguing, but nobody changed the world by doing what others have already done. And two, Barry got excited
Apparently, there's going to be a Turtles movie.
about everything. He'd show me around and we'd work on a few things, nothing too exhilarating. It was the 11th of May, the day the phone rang, the day my life changed.
Get over to Hangar 3. You're going to be working on the reactor for the sports model. Oh, and take goggles with you. About time you started doing some work around here.
Finally, I thought, something to work on. As we walked to Hangar 3, Barry seemed excited. Well, more than usual. I had no clue what the sports model even was. A jet or a vehicle with an advanced engine of some kind. Nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared me. You stop breathing. You can hear your heartbeat. You couldn't see how it had been made. No sign of welding or anything. The only way I can describe it is, it was like it hadn't been made. It had been born. Just like this. In perfect form.
She's something special, isn't she?
She certainly is.
We'll head over to the lecture room. I'll bring you up to speed on what I've got so far. We call her the sports model. The other 8 are all different shapes, but this one's definitely my favorite.
Other 8. As we headed through the never-ending hallways, my excitement just came out. It really was unbelievable.
This is what we're
Barry
working
had
on.
spent a month or so working
see
on the
here on
sports
the right
model
board
before
the
I
propulsion
arrived.
system diagram.
Basically, our
And on
job
the
was
left,
to
the
duplicate
orbital
how it
trajectory.
worked. Barry explained that this reactor, which was powered by an element called element 115, this element was used as fuel in a compact antimatter reactor. When a small piece of the element was bombarded with protons in the reactor, it produced antimatter, releasing enormous energy and generating a strong gravitational field. This field could be focused and amplified to bend space-time, allowing the craft to move by falling toward a distorted point in front of it, rather than using conventional thrust. Simple enough. We worked long hours trying to replicate it, sometimes going weeks without a break. But every time we felt we were getting somewhere, we'd hit a wall. I was told I'd get a full briefing on what I was allowed to know about what I was working on. About 12 days in, I was summoned to room 4. I'll give you a quick summary of what was said.
Over the past several decades, 9 separate crafts have been recovered from different locations around the world, at different points in time. Each discovery was isolated, compartmentalized, and studied in secrecy. Despite differences in shape and configuration, every single craft shares the same fundamental power source, element 115. This element appears to generate a gravity-based propulsion system, and your responsibility is to reverse engineer that technology. We are not here to speculate. We are here to observe, test, and learn. Every circuit pathway, every material layer, every energy fluctuation must be documented and analyzed. Current intelligence suggests these crafts originated from the Zeta Reticuli star system. If that is true, we are not just studying advanced machines. We are studying evidence of another civilization. Approach this with discipline. Approach it with curiosity. History may remember this classroom as the place where humanity first began to understand the technology of the stars.
So yeah, that's what they have us working on.
Bob, we're running a test on the sports model. I think you should observe it. It's Barry's day off, so you can fill him in when he gets back.
A test? Well, this should be interesting. Before heading back to the lab, I had to take one more look, when a voice said,
You can go inside if you like, as long as you're quick.
I didn't waste any time. I wasn't sure what to expect. Maybe something you see in the movies, a lit up console maybe. But there was nothing. 3 seats and the reactor. That's it. None of it made sense. Still, I must have sat there for an hour. That weekend I headed home for the first time in what seemed like forever. I'm not sure why, but everything seemed different. It was like the world was a different place, the people were different, as if the world was still spinning, but around me. People would go on with their daily lives, having no clue, no idea that we are not alone out there. There is, or has at least been, another civilization, with technology we cannot even begin to comprehend. They'd call me a day or two later. I'd never get a full week off, and that's how it went for months. A few days off, then weeks back in the lab. I gotta be honest, it took its toll. I headed home, not even knowing what date it was. Although exhausted, a night with friends is exactly what I needed. We played cards and drank till the early hours.
All right, you win this one.
Then the inevitable questions came. Where I've been and what I've been doing.
So, what have you been working on, genius? Yeah, solving world hunger with sticky notes again?
It's a spacecraft that came from another galaxy, actually. I don't know why I told him. I tell myself. I just needed someone I knew to believe it. Someone to know what my life was. I told them everything. They believed me, as I knew they would, but asked if there was any way to prove it. I told them there was a test tomorrow evening, and that it could be seen from a certain point. We drove out to the desert. At the time, the base that I was at had a smaller perimeter, so we headed there, hoping to catch a glimpse. We parked the car, then headed to a hidden spot where we wouldn't be seen by anyone at the base. We sat for a while. I wasn't sure what time the test would start, as time's always changed.
What kind? Bright, moving fast. Could be anything.
And that was it. There it was. Obviously, they now believed me and got pretty excited. They wanted to see the next test, but this time bring a camcorder. Not gonna say it was the best decision I ever made when I agreed. So the next night, we headed back, not knowing if there was even a test that night.
Last night, it moves so fast.
We just
Yeah,
sat there
I've
talking.
never seen
None of
it.
us even noticed until they were standing right beside
It moves
us.
so fast. Could be closer, like another dimension.
Security from the base. I knew right then and there my time there was over. I'd made a huge mistake. They figured
You were
out pretty
explicitly
quickly
told
that I
to stay
worked
away from
there.
the base.
So they
Bringing your
interrogated me
friends along was
separately,
reckless and
what
authorized.
I'd seen
As of
and what
this
my
moment,
friends
you are
had
fired,
seen.
effective
They
immediately.
never
Do you
asked about the
understand?
night before, so I didn't tell them. I expected to be arrested and charged with trespassing, but they simply removed me from the base. And that was that. My time there was over. I began looking for alternative employment pretty much
So,
right
your
away,
resume mentions
thinking
air
that was the
propulsion.
end of any
Tell me about your
communications
propulsion
from the
system
base.
focusing on high-efficiency engines.
Something occurred to me almost right away. How much classified information did I know? But what even made it worse is the thought of what comes next. Every day it was something different. A phone call during the night, followed everywhere I went. This wasn't paranoia, they were building to something. I had this image that they were going to make it look like I had some sort of accident, something like you see conspiracy theorists talk about. I had to do something. I decided I would tell the world.
The man you are about to see says he worked at a secret installation south of Groom Lake, known as Area 51. He claims the Fear Us government possesses several flying saucers of extraterrestrial origin. This is Dennis, a physicist who claims he worked on these spacecraft. Today, he tells his story.
I never wanted to be in this position. I'm not doing this for attention, and I'm not trying to sensationalize anything. I'm coming forward because I don't feel safe, and because the public deserves to know what's happening out in the desert. For a short time, I worked at a facility south of Groom Lake, built into the side of a mountain. From the air, you'd never know it was there. The hangar doors are contoured to match the terrain, like part of the hillside. You only see the truth when you're standing right in front of them. Inside those hangars were 9 craft. Not experimental aircraft, not prototypes. I'm talking about vehicles that were not made by human hands. They were different shapes, different conditions, almost like they'd been acquired at different times. My job was to work on the propulsion system, reverse engineering it. Not building it, we're nowhere near that. The reactor was powered by a stable form of element 115, producing its own gravitational field. The reactor didn't have wires or plumbing. It didn't need them. It generated a gravity wave, amplified it, and used that distortion to move the craft. Security was extreme. Compartmentalization was absolute. You only knew what you needed to know, and even then, you were watched. I'm not claiming to know everything. I only saw a small part of the project, but what I saw was enough to tell me that we're dealing with something extraterrestrial. Something recovered, not invented. And the fact that this information is being kept from the public, that's why I'm speaking out. If something happens to me, at least this will be out there. At least people will know I tried to tell the truth. I was hoping that would be it. They'd leave me alone. I never expected it to become this huge story, but it was everywhere.
Is there any evidence?
He mentioned documents and photos. We'll follow this closely.
And I also heard there's like aliens there and stuff.
Do you have any idea what we're gonna do to you now?
I had to go public. If anything would have happened to me, then the information would be out there. I also told them I had obtained a small piece of element 115 from the base, which was probably not the best idea. The police searched everywhere, multiple times.
Where is it? I know you worked with it.
They'd show up on random days and begin the search again.
Do you have any idea how much trouble you're in?
Once they were satisfied I had nothing, they left. As the days and weeks went on, I expected some kind of comeback, but things seemed to calm down after that.
This is the metal dome cap.
I decided I would make VHS tapes, explaining what I knew. I figured the more that people know, the less chance something would happen to me.
Element 115 is
And as time went on, I even did a few conventions.
The craft bends space-time. It's revolutionary.
And at every convention, I always get asked that
Changes
same
everything we
question.
know.
So, like, dude, did you steal any of that element stuff?
And my answer is always the same. I'm afraid you cannot ask that, and I'm afraid I cannot answer that. Not long after, I decided to move out of state and start fresh. It was time to move on. I decided it was best to go it alone. So that's it. That's my story. In the beginning, I said that it was the greatest job in the world. I didn't mean that it was the best. I simply meant it was the greatest opportunity to be part of something that will eventually see us one day, travel across our own universe and even beyond. But for now, the only advice I can give is this. If ever you're out on a clear night and the stars are out, take a minute to stop and look up, because you never know. You may just miss it.